So basically, a few days ago, I did a video about this subject. I'm going to say it. Real music is dead, and I have no hope that it's going to return as part of massive public appeal. So I got to ask you, do me a favor. If you want to fully understand the context of everything, to go back and watch that other video before you react to this one. I also want to point out the fact that it's impossible to get a truly valid opinion on what I'm saying unless you watch the entire video. Most of the comments would come back and kind of go at me based upon comments I made earlier that I completely clarified later. And so if you didn't watch the whole video, there's no way in the world you could have an informed video. And I encourage you to do that with this one. I think this one, I'm going to kind of rehash a little bit of what I said, maybe take it a step further. But I think as I progress through this, I think I'm going to offer all of us some hope and really work together to find a solution to the problem. Because I can assure you, I don't like saying what I'm saying. It actually does not. It actually really hurts me inside, the fact that I've said what I've said. Again, I'm one guy with one opinion. Nothing I'm saying is fact. You need to understand that. So let's get that out of the way. This is just my opinion. This is how you have intellectual discussions back and forth. I want you to change my mind. Maybe I'll change yours. Maybe we may walk away from the conversation and being at different odds of the discussion. That's fine. That's cool. That's cool. There's so many things in life like that because this is a very subjective subject. A lot of the comments kind of came in and said, Barry, you need to get out and see more bands. I live in Orlando, Florida. I have a season pass to Walt Disney World just so I can see bands come through. We have Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, and then we have Spring and Flower at Epcot during the spring, basically, okay? And these things tend to go on for like 3.5 months, each one of them, where every 2 days there's a new artist coming in and playing. I tend to go there just for the music. The only reason I have an annual pass is because I want to go see that music. So I guarantee you, I probably see more bands than the average young person has in probably 5 years, to be honest with you, because let's face it, live music is hard to find. Now, the bands I'm seeing are bands that were kind of big back in the day in the past that are still sustaining from the reputation they developed there, which I think is kind of encouraging for all of us. Let's talk about the local scene. I'm going to tell you, I've lived all over this country. I'm going to kind of go through some of the cities I've lived in. I grew up in Kentucky. Of course, music was wildly rampant there at the time, but that's a long time ago. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in Nashville. I've lived in Dallas. I've lived in San Diego. I've lived in Las Vegas. I live currently in Orlando, Florida. So I've kind of moved all over, and I've seen how all of this has just simply declined over my experiences going there. Now, if you're in a big city, you're probably not going to struggle finding local live bands. You're probably not going to struggle doing that. I hope you're not. I really want to hope you're not. But here in Central Florida, in Northern Florida, it's almost non-existent. Pretty much the only bands that you're going to see are, well, for original content, the only type music you're going to see here is metal. And that's it. And I love metal, okay? I love all kinds of music, right? But I love metal. I was a metalhead throughout all the 80s, all right? So you can still find that. But there's really only 1 or 2 places you can go. And they're really dive places, to be honest with you. If you're going to see any other kind of live music here in Central Florida, and it is very hard to find, but if you are going to see it, its band members are going to consist of people over 40 years old, and they're mostly playing classic rock from the 70s and the 80s. That's pretty much all you're going to hear for the most part. And it's been like that for a very long time, at least the last 15 years here in Orlando. So can I say every city out there is like that? No. I think your odds are, if you're living in Chicago, I forgot to mention I lived in Chicago. If you're living in Chicago, New York, San Francisco, although San Francisco's kind of turned into an armpit here lately, but any of these major places, your likelihood of being able to see live music on a regular basis is going to increase because the number of people are much greater. So that's hard to do, and that really in and of itself says a lot. Now, you walk into your local music store today. You walk into a Guitar Center. I was going to say Sam Ash, but they're no more. So you walk into a local music store, and you know what you're going to mostly see in there? People over 40 years old. That's what you're mostly going to see in there. And for the most part, it's going to be a ghost town. Now, much of my life, you walked into a guitar store And there were tons of kids playing guitar, tons and tons and tons of them. And I'm just picking one instrument, lots of great, wonderful, beautiful instruments out there. But you might find one or two, and that's it. And oftentimes, you know what we see here in Orlando? Those kids are most likely from Brazil, where the music scene is alive and well. It is alive and well. I'm only speaking to what's going on in the U.S. I can't speak to the rest of the world, right? But I'm going to talk about the U.S. because the U.S. is, well, we're big. We've got a lot of people here, right? I think it's hard to find, and most people aren't playing. You've got a lot of people sitting at home, and no offense to any of you, I don't mean any offense to any of you, but basically have no musical talent that can pull up loops and samples and do one little finger at a time on a keyboard. And they're creating, I'm going to be honest with you, pretty generic music. I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult you, and I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule. I have no doubt about it. So please, please, please don't take offense to that. I don't mean any. I genuinely don't mean any. I think anybody who could find a way to create music, to me, it doesn't really matter how it's created if it's really good stuff, right? There's a lost art. There's a lost art of getting a group of players together and creating that music together, or taking it to the next level. Maybe you've got a core songwriter in the group and everybody else kind of adds their parts and really takes that song and molds it into what it becomes. And do you really have those today? You probably do out in LA, I would guess, but other places, do we really have that today? I don't know. I certainly don't see it. I don't hear about it. But I have looked for the record. I have looked just out of curiosity to find out. I would go into a music store and talk to some young people and say, hey, are you in a band? Most of the time I'd get no. What I'm hopeful for, and I think a lot of people, because most people agreed with me in the comments. Does that mean I'm right? It doesn't mean I'm right. But overwhelmingly, the majority of comments were in agreement with me. And so all that does is tell me I'm not the only one thinking about this. How do we turn this around? Because there were some really great comments, and there were some just premium golden nuggets in there that really brought me a lot of hope. I had one guy come in there and kind of suggest to an artist, and if you've been watching my channel, you probably know I have a pretty extensive wood shop out in my garage. I have a detached garage. It's 2.5 car garage. And so it's full of planers and jointers and CNC machines and band saws and table saws and the whole yada, 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 all of that. And anything you're going to need to create wood is out there. Oftentimes I'll just hang out there. So he sent me a name of this one guy, and I said, let me put my earbuds in and let me check this out. And I found myself just, yes, this is freaking awesome. I love this guy. This guy's fantastic. I went from kind of bopping in my seat, kind of getting going and feeling really energized, to when it went into a soulful song and I felt like, oh my gosh, man, this is so relatable. This is so relatable. Why hadn't I heard of this before? And I got quite a few comments like that. I said in the previous video, they're out there. You just have to go search for them. The whole point of the last video was about the mainstream, where the vast majority of the people are locked in on it. Because that's when things are really moving forward. That's when more opportunity comes up. Basically, everything you hear out there today is basically the same for the most part, to me, to my ears. Maybe you disagree, and that's fine. Don't take offense to it. So how do we find that? So what I want you to do today is, I can't tell you how badly I want to be wrong about this. I cannot begin to tell you how badly I want to be wrong about this. I have lived my entire life. I've purchased tons and tons and tons of gear and guitars hanging all over these walls because I've been deeply, deeply, deeply passionate about music my entire freaking life. My entire life. And I don't want to see it decline. And I'm saddened by what I hear and see today. Like anything else, there's always that thing of history hopefully repeating itself. This one has kind of gone on too long, so we're in due for, I sure hope that repeat itself is going to come back pretty soon, because I want to find new talent. I want everybody to hear it, which is really what I'm trying to say. I want everybody to at least get a taste. Everybody doesn't have to like it, but at least get a taste. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, quite simply, is go down in the comments section below and name 3 bands, 3 artists that you think fit this mold, that you think, now this is key. This is absolutely key. Don't just go pick a band you like. That's not fair if that's your only criteria. Pick 3 bands that you feel like could become mega stars because their music and their talent is so good. Pick 3 and then tell me just a brief description as to why each one. Not a long one. It'd be too hard for people to go through a lot of the comments. So if we get these massive comments, people just tend to ignore that and just move on to the next one. So just give me 3 bands. If you don't have 3, give me 2. If you don't have 2, give me 1. Just give me something. And then I'm going to kind of throw in some videos down the road, and I'm going to showcase some of these bands. And I'm going to ask people to listen to it. I'm one guy out there in Orlando, Florida. I obviously cannot move the needle in any significant way on anything. But if I can play my small little part, and my hope is other people that do what I do will do the same. We'll do the same. I've not really ever put much effort into like TikTok, really Facebook Reels or Instagram. I've never tried Twitter, because I don't really care what people think. Why do I care what somebody else thinks? I only care about what I think. But I'm going to explore these and take small segments of these and kind of maybe put that out there if you guys give me something to work with. Help me help them. Help me do what little bit I can to help these great artists that many of you feel strongly about are out there. I don't care what the genre of music is. I don't care what it is. If it's compelling, it's compelling. And it really is as simple as that. And so help me do that. Now, no, when I do these videos, there are going to be some people who are going to say, oh, Barry's just trying to get a bunch of views by doing this. No, because the minute I play those songs, a copyright strike and I get 0 for it. So I'm willing to put my time and effort into doing this as long as I've got willing participants on your side. Basically, I'm working for free, kids. I'm working for free, and I have no problem. And I want to paint a picture for you before I close. We're about ready to close. How hard I do work for all of you guys. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have breakfast. I get caught up on news, things like that. By 5 o'clock, I'm in the shower down here in the studio from 5:30 until 9 a.m. every morning. 9 a.m., I get in my car and I drive an hour to work. Once I get to work, I'm there 10 hours. I get off work, I drive an hour home. I'm in bed by 8 p.m., between 8 and 9 p.m. every day. Okay, that's 5 days a week. On my days off, I'm constantly out there designing and building other things that my wife and I have a side business on in our wood shop. I've literally not taken a day off, not one single day off in over 2 years. I'm passionate about all these things, so some of it doesn't feel like work, but I enjoy doing it. So I'm not doing this to make a ton of money. I actually make very, very, very little money on this channel. And I'm going to put this at the very end because I probably should have said it earlier. But one of the ways I do make money is I have an affiliation with Sweetwater. So if you do use the link down below and you go buy something, I get a small cut of it. Really simple as that. I've never done a sponsored video by Sweetwater. And so ultimately, that's just the way I can make side money because I do deserve to make money for the effort that I put into this. So that's another way that you can give back if you appreciate the content that I do. I want to have hope. I want you to help me have hope. I want you to help me. Help me, please. And I'll do everything I can to help them. And hopefully, maybe, who knows, create a copycat generation of trying to discover new talent out there. And let's kick this all generic stuff to the wayside. We've always had it, but it's dominated for far too long. In this guy's opinion, you can disagree. It's all cool. We're cool. We're cool. You have your right to your opinion. So do I, right? So to kind of keep that in mind. But until next time, hope every one of you have a great day. Let's keep music going together. I want to be hopeful. And I've got a good feeling inside right now. And I'm believing that we can do this, all right? So let's do it. Bye-bye.